Welcome to the VHS Club. Hey, Nat.
Hey, Kate. How you doing?
We did it. We've been talking about this for forever, and we finally pulled the trigger. We are here. We are live. If you're hanging out with us here live on YouTube, definitely drop us a comment and let us know where you're watching from and what your favorite movie is. It might be on our list. It might not be, but we'd love to know.
Or maybe it could be.
Maybe it could be. Maybe our favorite movies will be on your list.
Well, our favorite movie today, not just today, but our favorite movie period is Empire Records.
It sure is. And so we figured why not start off with our all-time favorite movie because A, it makes it easier, and B, it forces you to rewatch it and me to pretend that I watched it so that I can swipe all of your research.
I watched it. Katie set everything up and I watched the movie. I did the research, but I don't know anything about anything.
I found it.
Yes.
I found it. And we should have called ourselves the DVD Club because I think most of the new versions of movies I have are on DVD and not VHS. But you know what? That's fine. That's how it goes, right?
I have to confess, I do have this movie on VHS and on DVD because the DVDs did not exist when this movie came out.
No,
in
they did
1995.
Not. This is a 1995 movie, and I think what makes it so absolutely incredible is the fact that it's a 1995 movie and is so incredibly 90s. My dad would be rolling his eyes. He always hates when I say that it's so 90s or so 80s. But
well, I mean, we could say to your dad it's so 50s, but like
We could.
That's not this podcast.
Shout out to my dad that it's so 50s. We are likely not going to cover any movies from the 50s on this podcast, but you never know. Maybe we'll burn through all of the 90s and 80s movies and have to move on to the 50s.
I mean, they have some bangers in the 50s, but
it is very true.
But
well, we figured
today it's Empire Records.
It is absolutely Empire Records Day, and we figured we would kick things off in this podcast, which is going to be entirely movie reviews for movies that you probably have already seen. And since we're reviewing them, most of them are likely going to be our favorite movies. So spoiler, most of these are probably going to get a pretty good review until we start getting really into the weeds with movies we haven't seen or recommendations from you, our live viewers.
Yes. And we do have some movie differences in taste occasionally. Rarely, but occasionally.
Sure. Rarely, but occasionally. But we figured we'd kick it off by sharing some of our favorite blockbuster stories. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, for those of you who are too young to remember the Blockbuster days, I worked at Blockbuster for years and remember fondly all of the craziness that was Blockbuster. So I will share some of my favorite Blockbuster stories, and I hope that if you have favorite Blockbuster stories, that you will send them in or leave them in the comments or email us and let us know your favorite Blockbuster stories. But I worked at a Blockbuster in a tiny suburb outside of Montreal, and it was one of the busiest possible Blockbusters, I think, in all of Canada, really. I think it was pretty high up there.
Okay, I didn't work at this Blockbuster, but occasionally when I had to go pick Katie up after work, I worked at this Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Free slave labor.
Exactly. Well, so one of my absolute favorite moments at Blockbuster, and then one of the most ridiculous possible experiences there, is that if you remember the video rental days, and Blockbuster was not specific to this, we had like a return shoot. So you could drop your DVDs, VHS, what have you, into the chute to return them, so you didn't actually physically have to come into the store to hand them into someone. Well, it was an incredibly busy day. There were customers like lined up. The movie Monster-in-Law, you remember Monster-in-Law, had just come out. J-Lo.
Yeah.
J-Lo movie. Not the best. Probably not. True. And Jane Fonda.
I mean, Jane Fonda was iconic in it.
That's true. Maybe we should review it on this one. But that one had just come out. Everyone was looking for it. It was like you were not going to get it. You were not going to be able to rent this movie. There was no Netflix to be able to save the day and help you find this movie. And everyone was looking for it. And a bunch of high school kids, maybe younger, I don't know, I'm assuming they were high school kids, threw firecrackers into the return chute, which promptly caught all of the movies on fire. Straight up fire, flames coming out of the back of the return chute, and we were like trying to put out the fire. And while we were trying to put out the fire, which is like actively like flames coming out, like people could see from within the store, there were people asking if anyone had returned Monster-in-Law and if we could pull that out of the chute. We literally had to turn around and be like, the return chute is on fire. Straight fire. There is no way that if Monster-in-Law was in this chute, you would be able to get it or watch it. It's literally on fire. Those were the days, right?
But they didn't care. Like, we have very demanding customers in Montreal. Very demanding customers. Yeah. And they ask the most ridiculous questions.
Yeah.
And Blockbuster was the prime example of the lowest common denominator of these people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The chute's on fire, and they're like, hey, is that movie in there? Can you stick your hand in the open flame and try and fish around for it? Yeah, okay.
Thankfully, though, Empire Records was not on fire and was not in the chute that day, so we saved it, and we are ready to talk about it today. But that was my Blockbuster story. Are you ready to dive in to Empire?
Empire Records. So, Katie has the VHS picture up here for our listeners who can't see it.
Obviously.
She also held up the DVD cover, which I recommend. If you're going to watch any version of this movie, it's the blue DVD cover that Katie had, the fan remix.
Yes, it is called Remix Special Fan Edition.
Yes, and it really truly is. It is the gift that keeps on giving. Mm-hmm. There's so many extra songs in it, so many extra scenes, and I mean, let's be honest, music in the 90s was so iconic, and this soundtrack has all of it.
Absolutely. Although the one complaint that I will say about this edition is that you and I watched the original VHS and then DVD probably a bajillion times. This is my new favorite expression. And so I had the movie completely memorized. And when the fan remix came out, it still throws me. Like, if I'm honest, I think that I have that VHS version memorized and not this fan remix version. Although I will agree that this is the better one to watch. So if you're joining us and you're like, never heard of this movie, who are you two crazy people? This is the one that you need to watch.
Absolutely. It fleshes out the story a little more because there are some deleted scenes, and like some of the deleted scenes are maybe 30, 45 seconds.
Yeah, but worth it. Absolutely worth it.
I don't know why they were cut out in the first place. But worth it, yeah. I have to say, when I rewatched this movie, and of course I watched the fan edition, I'll have it mostly memorized like we did the original VHS, but I've been rewatching it a lot, and rewatching it this week reminded me that, not reminded me, I was just filled with rage that I was not watching this in person with Katie, to quote it completely. Rage. Like, I had to pause the movie, get some alcohol to calm myself down, because I wanted to punch something, because I'm like, Katie's not here, nobody's quoting the movie with me, I'm all alone, and this is horrible, but this movie's amazing.
Yeah.
And it made my life better this week.
Yeah, there is something to be said about, and maybe other people are better at this than I am, but I feel like once we got into this kind of like binging TV, Netflix, HBO world, it became less
access.
It became like less popular to do these like movie days, movie nights that we used to do all the time. Granted, we also just don't live in the same city anymore, but I think like we sort of lost some of that.
I mean, horror movie Tuesdays.
Yeah, that
was
magic.
a part of our life.
Yeah, so like watching, I agree, watching it together in a group is really much more fun, I think, especially sharing your favorite movies with people is always more fun doing it in a large group.
I love seeing people's reactions to my favorite scenes, or when I know something's coming and I'm like, oh my God, how are they going to react?
Absolutely, absolutely. So other than your emotional rage,
rage.
Next time we'll just have to set up a digital watch party, which is not as fun, but you are really good at timing it up so that we're at the exact same moment. So
so people picked up tons of skills, lockdown skills. Mine was syncing my audio with Katie's audio so we could watch shit together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's now on my CV, my resume. Like, it's actually a skill.
Just it's good to have skills. It's good to have skills. So let's dive
in. Skills.
Let's dive into this. And I having done no research and not having watched, I watched this probably in the last year or so. I forced a bunch of friends to watch it with me, some for the first time, some for like the bajillionth time with me. But I think that there's like a couple of different topics that I want to dive into with this. And the first is the music. And like so much the music that I wonder, I'm trying to look to see if it's on this version. Yeah, see, it actually says, so like one of the selling points of this movie is the soundtrack, which I would 100% agree with. But it says, it has one of the most dynamic song scores ever, and then literally lists the bands. And we're back.
Okay, so we had some technical difficulties. Our VHS tape got caught in the tape recorder.
Yeah.
Remember that, guys?
There's a storm / where we've been Comcasted. A little bit of everything.
I lie. We're obviously not on VHS tape, but
and everything can go horribly wrong.
When the tape used to come out, and you needed a good a good B2 pencil with a nice rubber end, so you could crank it back. Well, here we are. So Empire Records, our favorite character, has to be the soundtrack.
Has to be the soundtrack. Has to go to the soundtrack. Yep.
The soundtrack is not purely 90s songs.
True.
But it is used as a plot device. It is used as a character. It brings you to emotion. It brings you to a place that the filmmakers want you to be at. So you did good, Empire.
The Empire is strong. Different movie, but still.
Whatever. It's all good. So the movie opens up with one of the main characters, Lucas. short cropped bangs, black turtleneck, acid wash jeans, lanky. It's a vibe that many girls swooned over, guys, girls, and whoever swooned over back in the day.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
And
we did not go for the, like, Dwayne Johnsons back in the day. We did
traditional
not
hot
go.
guys. Yeah.
No, all those Marvel guys, I mean,
Yeah.
they're hot, but they're not what we wanted. The slightly nerdy, very intelligent,
Yeah.
lanky, hot guys.
Lucas also has the hands down the absolute best lines in this movie. Like everything
dialogue, yeah.
Lucas says is just like a quotable quote that I would put on a t-shirt. I would put all of Lucas's lines on a t-shirts and just wear that forever. That could just be like my rotating wardrobe.
You're so right about the quotes. And I mean, not just Lucas, but especially Lucas. But I mean, we still use this in our everyday vernacular because we watch stuff from this movie all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like,
damn the man, save the empire.
Damn the man, save the empire. Who knows where thoughts come from? They just
What's
appear.
with today?
Yeah. It's incredible.
One of my favorite Lucas
lines.
moments.
Yeah.
So, okay, wait. Let's backtrack. We have totally tangent on Lucas because
I'm
love
gonna
him.
tangent. Get ready, people. I'm gonna tangent.
I will try and bring us to the plot. Group of teens, high school to starting university, coming of age group, epic time period in a person's life. Because it's messy. You don't know it's messy. Everybody's muddling through. It's a shit show, and everybody gets through it, and it's amazing. So they work at a record store. This movie takes place, it's one of those a day in the life. It's like a one shot, one day, 24 hours. That's the whole movie.
Yeah.
Of these people working in a record store.
Yeah.
Granted, we say record store for people who don't realize this. Record stores sold more than actual vinyl records. They sold CDs, tape cassettes. At this point, when this movie was coming out, everything was mostly on CD.
Yeah.
Compact disc, laser disc.
I laugh because here in Amesbury, Mass, we actually have like a like new but not at all new record shop that literally is like a mini Empire Records. Like has records, they sell tapes, they sell CDs. They're just a place to hang out. It just like it's a whole, like you said, it's a whole vibe. Like, and in this Empire Records space, and again, I would say the store itself also a pretty predominant character in this movie, but the idea of just like spending time in these stores actually pretty similar to Blockbuster. Like spending time in these stores was a thing for teenagers to do, right? Like there were not a lot of other things to do. So getting to kind of be out on your own, spending a bit of money, but just spending time with friends, listening to music, watching movies, being in these spaces is also really important.
Like I get it. I worked in the mall, and like the mall in the 80s and
Malls.
90s, like that was literally, you just knew by like after dinner, like 7, 8 o'clock, you just show up at the mall, you go to the food court, you're going to pinch your friends. Because we didn't have cell phones. We did not. And you went to places where people gravitated. And I mean, I worked at a mall, you worked at Blockbuster, same concept. People gravitated to these places where you knew other friends would be. Yeah. It was a place to be seen with your friends, to hang out with your friends, to be seen by, maybe that hot person that you're really interested in. It was a place to go to hang out and to communicate with people. What I loved about Empire Records was that it was very much the sort of end of era of the small mom and pop shops.
All about transitions.
I worked in the mall, and we could see all of the local stores just suddenly dried up and left and were replaced by these big Blockbuster stores.
Big box block stores.
Like the little local, like Sam the Record Man in the mall was replaced by, in Canada we had HMV and Music World. I want to say Music Town, and I made that mistake earlier today because Music Town in the movie is their enemy. It's their
Yeah.
mortal enemy. And for us, I think here it was Music World, not
Yeah.
Town. So I
Yeah.
love this whole transitional phase in history
Yeah,
of
exactly. And
losing the mom and pop.
it was so brilliantly done in this movie because, again, like as a coming of age story, and with all of these teenagers who, by and large, were at these transitional points in their life anyway, these decision points of, you know,
Yeah.
do we keep working in this job, you know, and if I do, does that mean that I'm here forever, or am I heading off to college or university, which was